Hi, welcome to another video. Today we're doing 5 essential tips for beginners on how to learn the fretboard. So in this video I'm not going to be going through the individual notes. What I'm going to be doing is 5 tips and tricks for making patterns on the neck, and 5 things that you can do to just make it easier to learn it, because quite often you actually know more than you think you do when you're first learning the fretboard and where the notes are. Okay, so tip number 1, you can use reference points from chords that you already know. So, for instance, G major. Now you might already realise that that top note you're holding is G, and of course, because it's an E string on top and an E string on bottom, any note on the top, like G on the 3rd fret, is going to be the same on the bottom. So you already know where a G is, in fact 2 Gs, because you've got the top and the bottom. Things like that C major chord, that 3rd finger you're holding down, that's C, and so is your 1st finger. And this goes for anything. So any chord you know where you know a note in there, you might think, okay, well that's a starting point for working out where the rest of the chords are. If you know bar chords, so things like that, and you know the names of where they are, well, you already know positions of notes. Wherever your 1st finger's holding down, that's the root note. So in this case, again, we're back to that G. We know that's G. Moving that round, if you, for instance, if you're playing off the 5th string there, that's E, because the 1st finger is on E. So you can kind of work backwards and say, well, you're not sure where a note is, but if you know where the bar chord is, or with the open chord with certain notes, you can then work backwards and go, okay, well, now I know where it is. So that's tip number 1. Right. Tip number 2, you may already do this when tuning, so how to tune your guitar with itself, the strings in tune with themselves. It's the 5th fret model. Notice there's a 4th fret in there, but we'll get onto that. So whatever note is at the 5th fret is the same as the open string just beneath it. Now, because of the way the 2nd string up is tuned, that's the B string, you'd have to go to the 4th fret on the 3rd string, make that sound, and then we're back to the 5th fret for the bottom 2 strings. What that means is if you know where a note is on a string, you can go up a string and along 5 and it's the same note. So if we start at the 5th fret on the 5th string, that note is D. So if we go up a string and along 5 frets, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we're now on a D on the 10th fret. If you're on the bottom string, so we've got an A on the bottom string in the 5th fret, we're going up and along 5, and then you can do it again, you can go up, and because we're coming off that B string, we're going to go along 4, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 for another A there, I forgot which note it was. So that's a way to do it. So the 5th fret, so whatever note you have, you can then come back and along 5, and it's the same note. So it's finding these patterns. You may not know where a note is, but you might be able to actually count across 5 and up and then work out what that one is. So that is your next tip. Right. Tip number 3, all of the notes repeat after 12 frets. So everything open string is the same as on the 12th fret. That means whatever note you know, so G on the 3rd fret, again we can add 12 to it up to the 15th, and we have G again. It's an octave higher, but it's the same note. So you can look at the marker dots if you've got them, and you can just play exactly the same thing up there, and you know where the notes are, and you can work out, okay, well if you know there's a G there, I can go up to there. And similarly for every other note there. So you're not learning the full fretboard, you're actually learning half the fretboard and then duplicating it. So that was tip number 3. Right, tip number 4, the triangle. So we'll play off the 5th fret. So on the top string this is A, and if we go down 2 strings and across 2 frets, we have A again, and then again, because the top and the bottom strings are the same, we've got A. So 3 A's. That works wherever you're playing. So whatever note you play at the top, so in this case on the 10th fret it will be D. So there are my 3 Ds, G, E, and so on. So if you know where one of them is on the top, you can use that triangle to work out where the next root notes are, and you can work out what notes you're playing, and that, again, helps you move your scales around, move your chords around, and just builds that knowledge of the fretboard up without having to just sit there and memorise every single note on every fret. Right, tip number 5. This is probably the one that I use the most, and it really helped me when I was learning. Similar to with the triangle, where you're starting off with going down 2 and across 2, but you just keep on doing that. So whatever note you're at, down 2 and across 2, same note. It works off 5th string, every string. The only difference is when you go either onto the B string or across the B string to the bottom E, you have to add 1. So you're going down 2 and across 3. So we can start on G here, on the 3rd fret. You're going down to the 4th string, 5th fret. We're going to go down 2 and this time add 3. And you've got a G. So you can work it out that way, but also if you have a note down here, you might not know what note it is. So we'd go back 3 and up 2. You might still not know what note it is. You go back 2 and up 2. Hold on, that's where I play my E bar chord from. So that must be E, that must be E, that must be E. It's building these little things up slowly. That's going to help you develop your knowledge of the fretboard. And like I say, once you know where the notes are, it becomes so much easier. You're not learning about, which boxes you're playing in and all that kind of stuff. It's more about, okay, I can do a scale shape from this note to the next root note, and then my little home bases that I can go around, and your playing becomes so much easier, so much freer, and it's not as intimidating as you think, because if you use these 5 tips, you already know a lot of this, even if you're just a beginner. Okay, that's your 5 tips for beginners for learning the fretboard. Thanks for watching. If you like that, please hit the like and subscribe button, and you can hit the bell for notifications for when the next videos are out. And in the meantime, let me know how you got on in the comments, and happy playing!